You are live, people.
No.
You are live, people. You are live, people.
Yes, we are. Thank you, Sami. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today at 11. We are on a Thursday. So it's a good day as any other to do this webinar. We are really excited to have you here. So maybe I can just start here with some news. BGI has been collectively working on the past 11 years on supporting startups. As many of you know, BGI started as a partnership between the MIT Portuguese Entrepreneurship and Innovation Initiative, and we actually spin out. We were being run by ISCTE, a business school in Portugal, and right now we are actually, we spin off, and we also created a second spin-off, which is actually a co-lab working in agriculture called Food for Sustainability. And at BGI, we keep running acceleration programs, but we also start doing many other activities like education activities and also open innovation activities. And that is especially important because we know that the startups need to get in contact with the client. So that's something that BGI has been developing over the last years, really supporting the startups in business development. So today, I'm very proud to be here with my fellows at BGI that I will introduce you just in a minute, that are going to tell you not just about our programs, but a little bit about, you know, from our experience, and we do work with thousands of startups. So in our experience, what does it take to go further? What does it take us to take you further? And what should you be looking? Sometimes many of the startups don't enter our programs specifically because they don't have a fit with our DNA. And that doesn't mean that they aren't great startups and that can succeed. So we just want to let us know what are we looking for, who is actually our target, and if we can actually collaborate over 2021. But this is just the first roundtable. That's how we are going to start. But we are also going to have some amazing guests that are going to tell you a little bit of their experience throughout our program. So you can actually find out more of what is the experience on first hand from our entrepreneurs. So we will start in about, I would say, 5 minutes to warm up. All right, I see that we already have 30 people joining us. We'll wait a little bit. We are in Portugal, so we do know that we have a lot of viewers that are from Portugal. However, our team is very international. So today we have a person with us that is learning Portuguese, right, Otis? Still not 100%, but on his way. Maybe our last webinar of this year, Otis will be speaking in Portuguese. Could that be a promise, Otis?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I will tighten it up. So in the end of the year, we'll do something in Portuguese. However, we do have a lot of people that are non-Portuguese. I just see, actually, Otis runs EIT Digital Venture Program, and I just see Shivan here. So Shivan is actually one of our alumni, and he's also non-Portuguese. Actually, half of the entrepreneurs who were on EIT Digital Venture Program of last year were foreigners, but they created their companies in Portugal. So that's really good. Right, Otis?
That's right, Sophia.
Great. All right. So maybe I will let you a little bit, in case that you haven't checked exactly on Eventbrite what's going to happen here. I'm just going to give you some guidelines. So basically, we are going to start with this roundtable that I'm really excited about. We're going to make some tough questions to my fellows, and then we are going to have a little bit of what's open right now inside BGI. So this first part of the roundtable is more for tips for you, and also you providing the insights we got. I also see that we just got Muhammad as well in here, so another alumni. You see that alumni are here in the house. So I also wait for some questions and comments from you guys. And then we are going to tell you, of course, about some programs, some possibilities that we have. Some of them are for really early stage entrepreneurs. Some others are for a later stage entrepreneurs. So we are going to have our lovely Beatriz also presenting what we have for the guys in health area, presenting BioAll, which is the new project. We are launching it this year. So it's a new, let's say, endeavor that BGI embraced for this year. But we are also going to have Tiago Costa, the CEO of Full Venue, who is still not here. Hopefully is on YouTube at this moment, and we will enter on Zoom in about 1 hour. And he's going to tell us his experience throughout Full Venue here with us on EIT Digital Venture Program, which is open until the 8th of April, and you can apply. And then last but not least, we are also going to have, because we have to, right, our BGI Accelerator. The applications are actually, let's say the launch is today, the official launch is today, and we are very excited about it. And so we are going to have a dear alumni of ours, Fadil Musa, who is the CEO of Deluxe. So it's actually a healthcare medtech company that was through our acceleration program. And on BGI, we actually take as well the entrepreneurs to Boston, because that's how, this is like, as I said right at the beginning, our initial path was with MIT. And so we still have these let's say very tight connection with Boston, and we do take our entrepreneurs there to meet our MIT network, mentors, investors, and, you know, potentially close a deal. That's the goal. So I guess we already have some people here. Yes, I see. I'm going to be checking as well the comments on YouTube. We decided to put this on YouTube, so in the future, if people want to check this, they can, and they know everything they need to know, not only about the tips we have, but also about our programs. I see that right now we are 40 people. I think I can kick off. And I'm very excited for this part, because this year we decided at BGI that's the best way for us to actually be telling you about our programs would be not only with testimonials, as we typically do every year, but with our project managers, the people who make it happen, the people who are behind the scene, that our alumni, everyone knows them, but for the people who are still not working with BGI, probably you don't. So I'm going to start with the ladies, okay, and by alphabetic order. So Beatriz Riscado, who is our community manager. Beatriz has been at BGI for around or over 2 years now. She started working with the corporates, and so she's very well connected in that area, but she also organizes all of our events. So of course, she knows all the investors you should be up to, and she's doing this bridge with the open innovation inside BGI. So maybe Beatriz, I'll pass just the word to you for, let's say, 1 to 2 minutes of tell us your background, tell us a little bit of what you do at BGI. So I'll pass the word to you, Beatriz.
Thank you very much, and I hope everyone enjoys this event. So my background is actually economics, and as Sophia mentioned, I have been working at BGI for almost 2 years. I try to help BGI with the outreach to its community, both the startups and corporate partners. We try to make sure that you know all the opportunities that you have, and we help you to try to grow and also have a close relationship with you and try to get you to where you want to be, and also be a support in your startup. Besides that, I also help with Vodafone Power Lab, the incubator of Vodafone Portugal, and also the BioAll program that I will talk further on today.
All right. Thank you so much, Beatriz. Then we are going to Claudia Carocha, which sometimes at BGI we like to call Miss Beetle, because that's what means Carocha in Portuguese. Claudia is actually supporting us on any project that we have in sustainability and in the food area. So if you think about the cities of the future, if you think about clean energy, if you think about eating healthy and eating organic, Claudia is the right person to support you. She has been with BGI, I believe, around 4 years now. And so, Claudia, if you could give us as well a round introduction of yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and want to learn more about BGI and our programs. So I've been in BGI for almost 4 years, and I've been dedicated to support clean tech startups and also food tech startups on scaling up their business, getting new clients, and finding investment opportunities. I've been working mostly with Climate Kick, so EIT projects from the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. And I've been working specifically on sustainability with Climate Kick on the food area with EIT Food, and more recently on the urban mobility area of EIT. Thank you.
Great. And last but not least, let's say the person who has been here with me at BGI almost since day one. So Atish has been here, I believe, going close to 5 years now. Atish is from Nigeria. He came to Portugal to do his PhD in economics, but ended up falling in love with BGI, of course. And so Atish, of course, has this very, let's say, research-oriented project. And so he created the Scale Up Portugal that maybe some of you know of it. Hopefully all of you know about it, and we'll be talking about it today. But Atish also develops a lot of other projects on deep tech, namely in the acceleration, which is what we are going to be focusing here today. So Atish, if you could also introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar. We hope you enjoy it. So like Sophia mentioned, I'm originally from Nigeria. I came to Portugal actually to study, to get a PhD, but I ended up joining BGI, and it has been an interesting journey all along. So my role in BGI, I work with a lot of digital and deep technology startups. So I work with the main accelerator and also with the venture program that is supported by EIT Digital. And also I am involved in a lot of the research that we do in BGI to help provide information to the ecosystem so that policymakers, entrepreneurs, and investors can know the trends that are happening in Portugal. So yes, and I hope you relax and enjoy our webinar today.
Great, thank you so much, Atish. Just a quick introduction. I am Sofia Fernandes. I was coordinating all the projects at BGI. Most recently, I am directing the business development team, who does business development, finding new programs to all of our dear project managers, but also for our startups. So for more mature startups, you can also enter our program where we don't do the traditional acceleration. We do more of a one-one tailor-made growth strategy for yourself. So I'm actually, my background is management. I did a major in strategy and marketing. And I've been working in some corporations before joining BGI. I'm at BGI for the now turning 5 years. It has been an amazing journey at BGI. We do create a lot of projects, and I've seen, since I'm here, 6 exits, which is great, and our alumni raising over 260 million euros. So, and that's only on BGI Accelerator alone. So it has been a great journey for me. Nothing of it would be possible without this amazing team. We are actually many more, but today we are joining here for the acceleration part. So let's go for it with no further ado. I already see some comments, and I think that I'm going to start with Atish, all right? So Atish, going back to the fact that you actually write the only quantitative, objective report made on the Portuguese ecosystem, okay, which is the Scale Up Portugal. You also have, let's say, 2 editions, the Outlook, which is a macro vision, and the Top 25, where we have the Top 25 best Portuguese startups. I want to tell you, you have been doing this for the past 4 years. So tell us, do you really feel like there is a secret sauce for startups, at least those that are, let's say, that started their company in Portugal? I would like to know, do you think it's the area, technology, the team, the environment? What do you think is relevant for the secret sauce of these startups, Atish?
Thank you, Sophia. I guess this is the golden question everyone wants to know. What is that single thing that we need to know to succeed as a startup? And just to be clear, and the fact is that there's not just one thing. I wish there was just one single thing you could just focus on so that your startup can be successful. But just for context, regarding following what Sophia has mentioned, every year we write this report and we get the opportunity to interview a lot of entrepreneurs to know what has made them successful. So based on all these interviews, based on the data we found, and based on our personal experience working in BGI and helping startups to accelerate, I sort of like highlighted a few things I feel are very, very strong in helping startups to succeed. So I would say the first thing is that startups who succeed actually focus on solving a real problem. They identify a critical need, and they identify how this need is impacting people's life, and it works really, really hard to help solve that particular problem. The second thing I noticed is that after they've identified this real problem, they build a good and a solid team around people who can have ideas, solutions, who can address those problems. So these are people who have expertise, people who are passionate about the problem, people who have ideas of working around the problem. So building a strong team has been really, really crucial to many of the startups that have been successful. I would also say, just as a caveat, that having the team, focusing on the team and building a success team has also been one of the elements that investors look at to see if the team has the ability to execute. So the third thing that I noticed, that many of the startups that are successful have great partners. So BGI, for example, would be a great partner for you if you need to accelerate, if you need to take your business from point A to point B. But also they have great partners, and these partners could also be investors. So finding the right investor, not just any random investor, an investor that is specialized in your field, goes a long way to taking you extra further. And finally, I would say most of the startups that have been really, really successful have been extremely motivated. So many of them have some sort of emotional attachment to the problem that they're trying to solve. And those startups that have, those founders that usually have those kind of experiences usually are able to go the extra mile to bring their solution to the market. So even though there's a lot of things you need to consider when thinking about how your startup can be successful, these are just a few things that I think are really, really relevant to help you to be successful.
So I think that that's very interesting, because today we are going to have here two people who had to put a lot, they had to risk a lot to actually throw themselves into the startups. And I think that's an important point that I will go back to it afterwards. But you did mention one thing, the investors, what they look for. However, we do know, and because we do work a lot with the European Commission, that there's also the possibility of non-dilutive funding. And there are a lot of types of funding. You have YAPME vouchers, you have many support right now from the Portuguese government, but also from EU, especially if you're in clean tech, isn't it, Claudia? Because we have the Green Deal coming up with many opportunities. So, Claudia, my main question for you is for these startups who, of course, there are different stages, but these, because you do work a lot with people that receive investment from investors and receive grants from these public funds, what is the way to go? Dilutive, non-dilutive? What would you relate this as well with the stage of development of the startup or the area where the startup works? And so, let us know a little bit about your opinion on this, and also your experience with the startups that have been working with you.
Yes. So first of all, I have to say there's no magic formula. So it's completely different between areas of working, between stages, and also between the dreams of the founders. It really depends on that. So there's several criteria for working on this investment strategy for the startups that they have to consider right in the beginning where they found the startup. So the first thing that we have to consider is that the stage where you have your startup. So normally when you're beginning to have your startup on the early stage of it, you're still defining your strategy. You're still defining your marketing strategy, the business model, who are your clients. So at this time, you really don't know yet if you want to look for a big investor or not, and the amount of money that you need to put yourself in a market. So normally, early stage startups choose non-dilutive funding, because normally they don't need these huge amounts of funding yet, and they still remain in control of the whole company to actually create their own strategy. Once they move to a later stage and they need a bigger amount of funding, they normally have an investor taking in dilutive funding, where they actually have to give equity to the investor. And this is normal only on the later stage startups because they already know their strategy. They already know their business. So they are willing to give a part of it to an investor that normally advises the startups and supports the startups. So more than investments as itself, the investor is also here, an advisor, a supporter, someone that is really keen on working with the startup and supporting the audience. Another thing that we actually have to consider is the area of the startup. So we see that in many areas, startups can really put themselves in a market, work on MVPs with low investment. So they normally go to non-dilutive grants, which normally we have around until 13K. So it's not really these big amounts. But then we see areas like the medical area where you need a lot of investment to put yourself in a market. You need from IP strategy, you actually need a lot of certifications, a lot of trials. So you need a lot of investment to even start yourself. So on this case, sometimes the companies go for dilutive investments where there's these VCs and business angels really looking forward to help these early startup stages to actually move to the market. So it really depends on these three types of things. So it really depends on what is your own strategy, how do you vision yourself in your startup in 5 years? Do you envision to be only your company or to have investors as advisors? It depends on the stage that you are right now. So it's completely okay if you decide for the next 3 years, I want to have full equity of my company. I want to have only non-dilutive funding. And then after that, depending on the results, I will move to another strategy. So this is not a standard formal strategy. It has to be flexible. It has to be adapted according to the results of the startups and also the products and services that you're developing. And after that, it's also depending on your area. So it really depends on the investment that you need right now to put yourself in a market. And we can see that from our startups, especially on sustainability side, in the beginning, they really look forward to grants from the government or from the European Commission. There's also a trend that is growing a lot because of the awareness that we have now for the climate action. So we see that they normally start with non-dilutive funding, with these grants to actually validate their idea, to put themselves in a market with an MVP and start pilots with the companies. And after they validate this service with the clients itself, they look forward dilutive funding from investors. So it's really a step forward after the first part of validation. So normally we have companies that after 4 or 5 years of receiving non-dilutive funding, they move forward to dilutive funding. But it's really a strategies that they adapt according to time, according to their results, and according to the strategy itself. So I would say for startups, my biggest tip is this is not really, don't be strict on your strategy. This is a thing that can change. Also, there's no exact formula. That may have been a startup that is in your area with the same stage that follows a different strategy, which is completely okay. And even if you decide to do something this year, you can change it next year. So it's completely okay with the right network of investors, mentors, and advisors. They will help you to create this strategy for funding and adapt it according to your success.
Yeah, that is absolutely important to pinpoint, because sometimes we have entrepreneurs that are so strict, like I have to have this one goal, and then they miss out on some opportunities. So I think as a startup, you have to be extremely opportunistic. However, grants are great, investment is great, but you need to have track records. So if you don't have clients, it might be hard to move forward. Of course, this is for when the company is created. That's why we always advise startups, do not incorporate your company before signing a contract, right? Don't do it. Do it when you have, because then it's also like, oh, so for how many years have you been around? Oh, I have been around for 5 years. So how many clients do you have? 2. So sometimes, research does take you time. And if you are really deep tech, it might take some time. That's an important point. Since Netflix failed on this first time, because the streaming was, it's needed too much download, upload that was not available at the time. And so thinking of how it failed several years ago, and now it's possible just because we are ready for it, just because of the availability of technology for everyone. So going back to this part of clients, and that's where our dear Beatriz comes in. So one of the main troubles we have when the startups come to BGI is that they lack the opportunity and the skills to actually close with the corporate, because most of the startups are B2B, the ones that work with BGI. So actually, what are corporates looking for, Beatriz? And you working with them and actually being a project manager for the corporate, why is it so hard? Why is there the mismatch, let's say, between the startup language and the corporate language? What do you think that could potentially facilitate as well the process?
Thank you very much for your question. So I think one thing we should have in consideration is that big companies are always looking for innovation. They want to be up with the market and what is going on, and they want to provide better solutions, not only internally, but also for their clients. And we can see this with big corporations, because even here in Portugal, most of the big corporations, they have an innovation department. They have people who are actively scouting for startups, who are trying to find a fit between them and their corporation and their clients. So big companies are in fact looking for startups. There is in fact a bit of the bureaucratical process. And this mostly comes about the right timing, because a startup solution needs to fit with the strategy of these big companies. These strategies are for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years. And it has to be like the perfect timing. But that does not mean that startups cannot approach big corporations. And with big companies, it's really about establishing a relationship, because most of them are multinational corporations. So when you reach a company in a country, if you establish a good relationship with them, if you go to their events, if you are keeping in touch with their team and getting to know them, when things do start rolling and when things do start working, you're very likely to not only work with that country, but then work with their other counterparties, because they have trust in you. And it's really about building the relationship. Nevertheless, I think startups should also be a little bit prepared, and you're talking about a little bit of the mismatch. So, like in a startup, a person has probably like 3 job descriptions, while in a big corporation, each person has a very specific job description. So especially when you start working with them and things start rolling, it involves a lot of people, it involves a lot of areas, a lot of approvals, that sometimes it might be a bit hard for a startup to understand, because one team might approve, but then the other team also needs to approve, so it might get a little bit confusing. And I think it's very important, the people that you first contact, which will most likely be the innovation team, to ask them this information, like who needs to approve next, so you can have a clear view, because maybe the innovation team it's used to working with these people, it's used to this process. So they may not understand that you're having some difficulties understanding the timings and how things will roll out. And you should really, when working with a big organization, ask for a lot of feedback as you're going, after presenting, after waiting for responses, so you can have a clear idea of what is going on. And the people will be very open to you in this sense. And it will allow you a lot to plan better and to understand big corporations better, and try to bridge this difference between startups and big corporations way of working.
So that's actually very, very interesting that you say that. And Beatriz, because you have been supporting this introduction between the startups and the corporates themselves, have you ever seen, common mistakes that the startups do while approaching the corporates? Like, would there be something, 1 or 2 things that you see that, why would you do that? Do you have one of those?
Yes, I think it's really going with, we have the solution, you can implement it here. Like, I believe that in the first meeting, it's not so much a presentation meeting from the startup side, it's really a debriefing from both sides. The company needs to say, this is our plan, this is what we are trying to do, this is where you might have a fit. In the startup, this is what we offer, this is what we could do. It should really be more of a brainstorming, more of a discussion, and not just a presentation, because something that might happen to startups, especially if they are, as you mentioned, starting to look for pilots, starting to have clients, it is very likely that the corporation might like you, they might like your team, they might like who you are, but you might need to pivot a little bit your product, and you need to be flexible to this. You need to be open, and you need to really have these discussions and not just be one side communicating, because then it really gets nowhere. It is also very important to be very honest. If you never had a pilot, you need to state that very clearly. If you will not be able to work in, say, 6 months, if you don't have money provided to you right now, you should also be very honest, because that will facilitate the corporate relationships with you. Like if you need money, like there are mechanisms surely in place for that kind of situations, because big corporations do work with startups, and you just have to be very honest about the place you are in. And really just to be very open. And I think the last point is that startups work fast, break things, and corporates are a little bit more strict with validations and everything. So it's really to incorporate those processes in a very seamless way. And for that, you have to maybe bother the people you are working with a lot, but it's better to keep really in contact with them to say, does this need to be validated before I send this? This need to happen in this way, and to establish a workflow that might be a little bit, in the beginning, you're always asking the same questions over and over again, but it's better to do that and then have a seamless flow than to be getting at the end and figuring out that a lot of stuff is still needing to be done.
Yes, before I continue my questions to you, I'm just going to read here some of the questions that might have arisen from our viewers. I also ask everyone, please do ask your questions or make your comments. So we have Dharmik Patel, who says, I have a running startup in Gujarat, state of India, in 2 metropolitan cities, namely Vadodara and Ahmedabad. I hope that I didn't say this wrong. I have no idea how to raise funds to expand my startup and keep things moving. So this is actually open to all of you. And we do work, by the way, BGI has received applications from 76 different countries. So we have already worked previously with Indian startups. So guys, do you want to give some advice to Dharmik with this running startup? He's into cities, he wants to expand, no funds. So how can he make this happen?
Well, I can start. So first of all, I think we need a bit more information about him. So I will encourage him to send us an email so we can take a really look to the startup. But I would say, first of all, I think that especially on the part of the funds, that you have to do market research of what's available in this, not only the areas that you're already in, but also on the government itself. So first of all, you have to see what are the type of investors that you have, and you can look for this based on your competitors also. You can see their area and investors that normally invest in your area, what they are looking for. But also check the types of investment or support that the government is giving to the startups. Normally, governments have a part of their own budget that is dedicated to innovation. And a lot of them have support for new companies being created, scaling startups, looking for new businesses or creating new jobs. So also look for that on the pages of the local government or other institutions that were part of the government that are looking for to support startups. And another advice will be to actually look for an incubator or accelerator in your region, because normally these entities have a great network, not only of potential clients, of potential investors, but also from potential collaborators that know more and can help a startup. So also look for these entities that normally have this background. They already have experience supporting startups. They already know more or less what type of resources they have or the needs they have. So they can also provide you with a network that can help you on supporting not only with investment, but also scaling up through more clients, more partnerships, or more pilots. So these entities normally are the key for a startup to actually give the next step on the market.
I also want to pinpoint here something that probably Beatriz could be more helpful. So we do have one of our viewers with Savamo, who is who is right now establishing a Portuguese startup, which is a new method for inactivating viruses without the use of vaccine and drugs. They need to conduct testing in vivo at this moment. So, Beatriz, any advice for Sava?
Yes, you can apply for the VOL program that's being conducted at PGI under the Erasmus Plus grant. This is a program really designed to help researchers, early stage startups, seed stage startups to get into touch with the Portuguese market and also with Spain and Italy, with Southern Europe countries. We have many sponsors in this program to make sure that you have good connections with the market. You will be given a grant. The winner of this program will be given a grant both from Idanha, the community center there in Idanha, but also you'll have logistical support from Portugal Health Cluster and also BNO Capital. So you'll be in contact with the market, and this is a program that it's really built to make sure you have a good network, a good structure, and that you are able to take the research, take the work you have been working on for years and make it a commercial proposal and make it into a startup, and to really go here from university to entrepreneurship. So I would advise strongly that program in particular. You can also put the link on the chat so you can see a little bit more about the program.
I am going to add that as we speak. I'm just going to pass, so I'm going to put very soon the link. We also have Arif Hamed, who is also talking a little bit more about startup funding. And this question, I think that maybe Otis, you can also give us some tips, like what's the strategy of finance, the strategy here as well for funding, that investors do expect startups to have when approaching them? What would be some tips you would give?
Okay, great, thank you. And those are great questions as a matter of fact. So my colleague Claudia already mentioned some key tips, but I would just like to add on what she has just said. So the truth is that, especially with venture capital financing, many people ask themselves this question: do I really need that kind of financing? And as Claudia mentioned, you should do a lot of research to find out if this is the kind of financing you need. If you determine that venture capital is the financing that you need, there are a couple of things you might need to do first before you start to look for your venture capital investor. So I always suggest to entrepreneurs, especially new entrepreneurs, to start small. Everybody has these ideas and wants to create like big projects before they get financing, but it's very, very important for you to start as small as possible, do some testing with the little product that you have so that you can gather some data. Even if the data is not a lot, but this data might be very, very useful to help you to close your first financing. Because when you meet an investor, they want to know that what the money they are putting into your venture has the likely to bring a lot of returns. And the only way they can know that, and the only way they can establish this fact, is if they can see that you have some sort of track record. So don't be afraid to start small. All right, don't be afraid to test your product. And starting small might be something like creating a website that basically just captures information so that you can validate your hypothesis for your business. This is very, very, very critical. Many entrepreneurs want to focus a lot on building a product and doing a lot of advanced things before they find their first investors. But if you can start this way, right, you might be able to get some insights that might be relevant for you to get financing. Also, through that process, you might realize that maybe getting venture capital financing might not be for you, because you could actually bootstrap. There might be things you can actually do to generate some sort of revenue that could help you to develop your product up to a stage whereby you can actually receive financing. Remember, venture capital financing is supposed to help you to scale quickly and to grow quickly. So you only need that money when you need to grow really, really rapidly. And venture capital investors will not really, really invest in your business if you're just doing the research phase. You will need something like a grant or some other form of funding. So just to sort of summarize what my Claudia said, you need to find partners. For example, you should search for incubators in your regions, accelerators which have these networks, which could help you to validate your business models and things like that, and prepare you so that you can get your financing. In the process of looking for your financing, you might need to create a very, very important document, which we call the pitch deck or the investment deck. We can't talk about that right now, but obviously if you contact us, we can give you tips on how you can prepare a nice presentation that would attract investors?
Yeah, that is absolutely key for anyone who is listening to us. It's regardless of your stage, you need to talk with your client. Even after closing a client, ask for feedback because he might not close again next year with you. And so that's absolutely important. However, you mentioned something interesting, Artish, which is the creation of the website. Today, if you don't really have, let's say, digital presence, you know, it sounds weird, it sounds shady. However, most of the startups that BGI actually works with are deep tech, which means that these guys many times don't have probably easy resources of design, marketing, and you know the normal communication skills that you would need to foster a really good online presence. So this one is for all of you. Any tips that for in terms of marketing and how to establish your brand, because that is important, your logo, and we do see a lot of horrible logos, a lot of colors, a lot of things going on. It's like you want something that could somehow resemble an idea, that somehow could resemble someone from your industry could understand more or less what you're trying to talk about. I'm just going to give the example of BGI logo right over here. So two kind of startups we like to work with, the Rockets and the Gazelles. Both of them, as you can probably let's see, they have the valley of death, right? And then they grow exponentially. So there is a reasoning why, and typically if you are an investor, you might get this much more easily, which is also some target for us. So in that sense, the question is, any marketing tips or any strategies that these guys could follow on to actually establish something that could be credible on the market, so when they approach the investors, it doesn't look like, you know, this PowerPoint project done last minute for the class.
I guess I can go. First of all, one of the things they can do, especially creating the website, is really to review it with, especially like in the beginning, friends and family who are not from their area, that might be giving them a very outside perspective. But also something that they can lean on is once they join acceleration programs, and in fact, they most of the times provide grants, provide mentorship, provide this bigger sort of components, they most likely also will provide help in regards to marketing, in regards to legal parts. Most startup accelerators are very well aware that, especially when a startup is starting, is mostly 2 engineers, so they need a little bit of support on this, and they cannot yet hire a team for this. So, like for example, here at BGI, if anyone asked us for marketing or website help, we'll be able to help. But we also have perks that will relate them directly with possible campaigns that they can do with some of our partners, and to place them in contact like this. So really joining programs, joining acceleration programs, most of them are built having in consideration this, because it's very common when a startup is starting to not be focusing on the marketing, and for the team that they are supporting to have some a toolkit and something to help them get their marketing going before they can hire someone to be in charge of it.
Maybe I can go next. So I think when you're building a brand, there are two things you should take into consideration. And before I mention those two things, many times founders build brands basically based on what they like. So I think when you're building a brand, the two things I would say you should take into consideration what your customers like, as well as what's the vision and the mission of your business. So you should always build your brand with a purpose, with an objective. You should not just design, for example, a logo just because you have to design a logo for designing a logo's sake. Your logo should be able to represent what your business is trying to say, and also what your customers want to see. So, and you should use this approach in building your business, in building your brand, in building your marketing strategy. You should be able to align what your customers want, and as well what you're trying to transmit. And this goes with for you to be able to accomplish this, you need to do a lot of research. You need to understand what your customers really need. And it goes back to all we've been saying in terms of raising financing. You really need to know what the customer wants. You really need to understand what problem you're trying to solve. And if you're able to have this, the answers to these questions properly, you will be able to build a successful brand and have successful marketing strategies.
All right. I also want to ask you something here, and that is absolutely key, of not creating a logo for the sake of creating a logo. If it's just that, just put the name of your company on a nice lettering, and that is better to be your logo than start creating some pictures that sometimes become really ugly. So this would be one of my advices, actually. So if you don't have that inside, there's actually a lot of partnerships. For instance, school has partnered up with Ishte, Nova has their own as well support for startups. I think that most of the schools are trying to support on that. Try to get that help, or of course with your accelerators. Going back on the acceleration story, and Otis, right at the beginning, you actually tackle one important point: the people who surround the company, your collaborators, your partners, your incubation or office space, your accelerators, all of your investors. So many times the startups are so desperate that they just will take anything, right? Because you're desperate, because you need to answer very quickly to everything that is happening. So what could be good advices from you guys for these startups that, they need to build these advisory board, they also need investment. So what are good tips that you have for the, let's say, the stakeholders that live or orbits around the startup? How do you choose them?
Maybe I can go again. Okay. So I think one thing that many startups don't know is that when you want to get venture capital financing, it's a long-term relationship. Many people see investors as just people that just put money in 1 or 2 years, but that's wrong. Usually when a venture capital investor invests in you, they usually want to be in a relationship with up to 10 years. And that's something you have to take in mind. So it's a long-term marriage. So, and with anything you want to do long-term, you have to be really sure that it's a partnership and it's a relationship you want to continue. So look for investors that are actually investing in your field, but also look for investors that you like. Look for investors that you share similar values, you share similar interests, because you guys are going to spend a lot of time together over the last 10 years. And you can figure these things out. You can check their LinkedIn. Many of these investors write articles. You can watch their interviews, and you can sort of get an insight on what they like. You can also interview some of the people they have invested in before. That's actually a great source of understanding what kind of investor you have and getting to know their personality before you actually commit. So if you're able to take this approach, you can get good investors who you like with, who you gel with, and this is a really, really good thing and would help you along the way in the long run.
And that's really true, because I do feel this culture that has been created across the time. I think that when we go to US, the things might be a little bit different, but in Europe, you still see the investor as someone that can request anything. And, the startup will just have to answer to anything and be like on a level of disadvantage, and that's more or less the feeling that I have from the startups. And, the guy is going to make money out of you. The guy's going to put money, but he's going to, have revenue out of you, out of your idea, out of your work. He puts the money, who is typically, if it's a VC, it's not his, right? It's someone else's money. So, just try to find, I see that a lot. Like, you always put yourself into a disadvantage point just because you need his money. Well, he also needs guys like you, otherwise the VCs wouldn't exist, right? So, if you do, I think that one of the important things is that be very confident, because most of the entrepreneurs are very nervous and people invest in certain things, right? So try to show, for €1 I invest in you, how much will I actually get in 5 years? That's a really typical question that startups don't answer. You need to have that reverse engineering. You need to have that kind of reasoning already start out before talking with an investor. And I also think you need to understand that you are on the same, let's say, level of respect. And that's an important thing that I see in several meetings that happens. But going back to other stakeholders around the startups, I would also like to listen a little bit about maybe Claudia, because Claudia has helped me over time, well, the other members as well, but a lot in recruitment for BGI. And so I would like to hear a little bit about that, and also from Beatriz on maybe also, more on the business part, not only suppliers, but also potential clients, and how do you manage all of that? So maybe Claudia, we can go first to you and then to Beatriz.
Yes. So I will talk a bit on the team that a startup needs. And first of all, since the beginning, and in the beginning, you really start founding a startup with someone that you know, and normally comes from a research, something that you did on university, and it's normally your colleague or your friend that's also interested in this product. So you start developing the startup with that. So normally, my tip for the first years of the startup is look for people that are passionate about what you're delivering to the market. So normally, because in the first years of a startup, you're really working a lot, you're not receiving so much for your work. Like it comes a lot of time from it takes a lot of time from your life. It takes a lot of resources from you. And sometimes you do it in a part-time way without a job. So really look for people that are that, like as we said in Portuguese, put the shirt on from the company. So people that do the extra mile for the company. They are there and they want to grow, and they have the same dream as you. But of course, these people sometimes are not from the backgrounds that you need or for the positions that you need. So also take that in consideration. Take in consideration that although you have a great product, you did this research, you have this great IP, and you know that it's going to be successful in the market. Maybe you need someone from sales or management or marketing that can help you sell this idea. So although you can have the best product, if the people don't know about it and they don't understand it, no one's going to buy it. So don't only look for people that are passionate. Of course, that's for me is the main criteria, because they are the ones that are going to fight for your startup through the whole period, but also look for people that actually have the background that you need. So don't just have a startup of engineers. We see that a lot. So look for people that really can help you. And first of all, try to understand what are the types of skills that you need inside your company. What are the things that you don't have, the knowledge that you don't have, and you need from someone else, and try to look for these people. So my best tip will be to actually coordinate between these two. So the passion and the interest on the area and solving the problem itself, but actually for the background on trying to get from the market something that you need inside the company and you don't have for now.
I also think that you tackle here an important point, Claudia, that then goes a little bit further into the culture, where we have a lot of startups who tell us that is not important. And we're like, it is important. When you are hiring people, you do have to start defining in your mind the kind of people you want to have on your team. Most of the people who get money, the immediate thought is, okay, I have money now to hire a very senior person to make sales to me because I don't know how to make sales. Do use, and from personal experience, do use a lot of junior people. They are very flexible. You can really adapt them to, any kind of situation. And on a startup, you need someone who is open to do everything. So I think that on an early stage, junior people can really take your startup forward because they will make it happen. And then on like a later stage, of course, senior people bring credibility and bring years of experience. So that's also very interesting for the startups. But to build a culture of the company. When I say culture, don't throw some values away. Yes, we are innovative, creative. We are highly educated. I don't know. Just really think on, like, give this some thought, because the people who are going, like, it's all about, in the end of the day, and we have seen this, is all about if the founders then work well. And we have one investor in our MIT community who tells us, also, you are working together. This is a marriage who is going to have a divorce. It always has. The founders is going to be always one who will keep striving until it's an exit, and another one who will do something else. And we have seen that happening in a lot, so many, majority of the startups that happen. So there is this level of commitment, and there's also the level of, in the end of the day, if someone messed up, you still need to tell the person that he messed up. So are you feeling comfortable with the person? You do really need to have a really good relationship with your employees on a startup, because a lot of things will go wrong. They always go. They also go wrong on corporates, by the way. They go wrong in any place. But in a startup, it affects you more, right? Because then it might be losing a client, losing your revenue, losing your job. So That's important. But going back here, before we go to you, Beatriz, we are having some comments and I think questions. I'm just going to go read it very quickly. We got our dear alumni Shiva, who says Otis is on the point. VC money is really expensive money. Bootstrap and focus on building partners, grants, validate it with competitors, grants, hackathons, and then try sales. Let money follow you. That's yeah. So Shivan was in one of our acceleration programs. So we know that's true. And we know you know it's true. So Save is saying, who can answer? Why did dragons breathe fire only? A scientific explanation. I think that it's would be a huge topic for us to discuss. Sava, I do think you should apply for BioAll based on what you just described us about your product. Then we have Coach Chris, who says, excellent points of view on respect and confidence. That is true, guys. It's really important. I see that the startups, like, really train your pitch. I think that if you haven't trained it 10 times before a pitch, then you are not trying hard enough. And you're always like, but I'm not going to try it. We have this thing at BGI where I always say, when it's an important document, read it 7 times. And I know now all of you will be laughing, but no one wants to read it 7 times. But it's so important because, these kind of things take you some work, but then the result is really different. So train everything and look very well on your documents. We have also Maria Dolores, who says, hi, I'm a medical student, almost finished. I believe that the future of health innovation is to have more doctors involved in innovation. Absolutely true. We have one alumni, well, several alumni, but one who is a woman medical doctor, Daniela from Tonica. She was in our Boston Global Immersion program. And she has been showing that, doctors are coming for the innovation side and with a lot of success. Then we have Mohammed says the future of health innovation is to have more collaborations between doctors and engineers, which take us to biomedical engineering, I guess. And Katarina Gomes will say, hi, can you explain how does 200M co-invest with the best works? So I think that this is the 200 million from PME Investimentos, which, by the way, has been working with Otis and talking a lot with Otis. So Otis is like our contact there. I don't know if you also want to give here some tips on this, Otis, regarding the 200M co-investing with the best works.
Yes, so they have an elaborate process in PME, but by the way, they've changed from PME to another name, to another brand name right now. So typically what they want is that you have to find an investor, a first investor who is willing to invest in you, and that investor approaches them and then they co-invest based on that. So you have to do your work in terms of like finding your first investor, and then that investor reaches out to PME to get you the additional funds they need to help you to support your growth. That's that in a nutshell. But you can send us an email and we can give you details or point you in the right direction of who you can speak with from that particular organization.
That is absolutely true. And I just noticed we ran out of time, but Beatriz will be here around to also tell you more about BioAll. Thanks to this amazing panel. I hope that we could be of help. We are going to continue to give you real testimonials of BGI alumni. We can also give you some tips, and you can also know a little bit more about how you can work with us. And yes, we are this extremely energizing team who really wants to take you further, okay? And we really do that every day. So thank you so much, Claudia, our queen of VIT, our lady from the sustainability and food area. Thank you, Otis, our deep tech manager supporting on our data and making us smarter. And Beatriz will continue with us, who is our lady fighting for this health area and also endorsing the startups in the corporate world. So I guess that I now pass it on to you, Beatriz, right? Thank you so much, everyone. Just be in touch with us, guys. Geral at bgi.pt. I put it on the chat. Just talk to us, and you can find us all on LinkedIn as well. Very easy. If you go BGI, we are there. So Beatriz, on to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sophia. So as you mentioned, now we'll have some startups talking, but before that, I will explain very briefly what BioAll is and what can get to your startup. So I will share my screen. I have just a small presentation about the program. I would just like to confirm that can you see my screen?
Yes, everything seems to be working just fine, Beatriz.
So we would like to introduce you in more detail to the BOL program that's coordinated under Erasmus+, and that is coordinated by UB Medical. So this is an accelerator meant to support really high-tech startups in health area. It is a unique accelerator, and it's the first time we are building this between Portugal, Spain, and Italy, because these are very similar markets regarding social, like aged population, health systems. So it's really an opportunity to not only be accelerated in a specific country, but to get network and outreach in all three of these countries, because any startup can apply even if you're not from one of these countries. You can be accelerated here and have all the help provided into building a startup in Southern Europe. The program is the first time we are building it, and we are building it with in consideration the fact that the startups and the people we'll have in this program are researchers, and that it is built to help you make that leap from university onto entrepreneurship. And we have outreach to several multinational corporations in the health area to make sure that you have a further outreach, that you have the right feedback to make sure that you launch your company very successfully. In the way we are doing this, and who is supporting us on this, as you know, BGI is doing this here in Portugal, and we are coordinating, but each of the countries will also have a partner there that is going to coordinate the startups, that's going to make sure you have the outreach you need. So in Italy, we have Cube Labs, that is a research center also very focused on startup development. And in Spain, we have PTS Granada, which is in Granada, that is also there to help the Spanish startups to really get all they can from the Spanish market. And here in Portugal, we also have LabFit. Since BGI is the coordinator of this program, we have a little bit of help to make sure that we reach everything in the Portuguese market. So who can apply to this program? Who can be part of it? We have divided it into 3 categories. Medical devices, these are devices that need to be approved by the FDA. We are very familiar with approvals at this moment, because we are following the COVID vaccines, but it should be something, it can be hardware, software, something that can influence treatments, but that needs to be approved in order to be provided to individuals. Then we also have medical development. This can be vaccines, drugs, therapies, something that will most likely involve a clinical trial, and that will also need FDA approval. So these are also optional to apply. And then, of course, after we have non-regulatory, meaning parts that don't need FDA approval, who are not invasive, that can be sold straight to consumer, who are still related with health, but that don't need to be externally approved. So, as you mentioned, this is the first time we are doing this program, and we really want it to be a big program that really helps to bridge this gap between university and the entrepreneurship world. So each of the countries will have sponsors who will provide a 5K grant to the winner in each country, and we'll also try to provide you space to have your first pilot and to guide you through implementation of your ideas. So here in Portugal, we'll have Centro Municipal de Cultura e Desenvolvimento de Venha Nova, which will be the sponsor providing the 5K grant and also providing you space within their new entrepreneurship initiative that they are developing. But besides that, you'll also have Portugal Health Cluster that will help you a lot in the networking and with their just entire group of companies and individuals who are part of this cluster. And finally, we have Bienova Capital, who will also provide 5K in kind, with the opportunity for you to use the researchers, for them to also give you feedback on your idea, and for you to have here a VC specialized in health, going through your idea and really guiding you a lot in that. In Spain, we'll have Fundación Caja Rural to give the sponsor from Granada, and in Italy, we'll have the Suras Group healthcare and life science to provide this prize. So we'll have 15 startups in this program, 5 for each of the countries, and 3 of them will win a 5K grant. So just to give you a little bit of a walkthrough of what the program will be, we opened the acceleration program in January. It will close this month on the 31st of March. We will have here between March and May the selection for these startups. Then we'll have a kickoff day, especially because this program will most likely be online, to just make sure everybody is comfortable, make sure you know everything and you have all the information you need to have a very fruitful program. Then we will have an immersive bootcamp at the end of June with a full week of sessions, speed dating, matchmaking events, really a lot of feedback being given into your idea and startup. That will be followed by an 8-week mentorship program that was developed by BGI and MIT. You'll have a specific mentor aligned with your startup, and it will allow you to make the most out of it. And then we'll have the local demo day in September, where we will choose the winner for each of the countries. And then we'll have workshops. And as we were mentioning, these workshops will be built according to startup needs. So if you need marketing, these will be, for example, sessions regarding marketing and other utilities that might be useful for startups. So I know I'm going a little bit over my own time. So as I mentioned, the applications close on the 31st of March. You can website whatever you feel most comfortable with. The applications will have 2 selection processes. So they'll go through a reading jury, that's the first phase, and then the second phase is a live jury. And the program is currently planned to be delivered fully online. We maybe hope that some of the later events in the year might be half online, half physical, but it really is dependent on the current situation, how things evolve. So this was my time.
All right, thank you so much, Beatriz. But for the viewers, we don't just work with, let's say, medical or health area. This is actually one of them, but not all of them. And we already have our next speaker. Thank you so much, Beatriz. I put available the link. I also put available the email of BGI. Email us if you want to know more information. If you want to apply, just go to the page. Beatriz, thank you so much. And I will ask our next guest speaker, because not all is about MedTech, which is Tiago. Tiago, welcome.
Hello, thank you, Sophia.
Yes, so Tiago is the CEO and founder of Full Venue, co-founder, there's another founder, and he was on our program last year of EIT Digital Venture Program. So as I just tell, BOL is one of the launches that we are doing this year, but another program that we will continue is the EIT Digital Venture Program, who supports startups in the digital area. So maybe, Tiago, my first question to you, and for everyone to know, what does Full Venue does?
Hello, Sophia. Thanks for the invitation to be here, first of all. Okay, I will answer what does Full Venue is doing. And we are an AI platform that predicts the exact likelihood of a fan to make a purchase. So like buying merchandising on an e-commerce platform, buying a ticket to an event, and we are mainly pointing to the sports industry. And we were when we started the program last year, but fortunately today we are also pointing to hotels, restaurants, and different areas. So this is the main scope of what we do.
Great, Tiago. And so my main question would be, so what stage were you when you entered a venture program, and what actually led you to apply?
Yes, we were on a very early stage. We were starting, so our company had like 2 months operating, and then the idea has 2 months, about 2 months. And we have received an email from Associação Empresarial Portugal, AEP, telling us about the program. So it was a huge opportunity for us to transform our idea into a business. It was an excellent opportunity, not only to have the investment that we got from EIT Digital, but also to build this network that we have done also with UBGI, And that led us, for example, to close an agreement that we have today with a huge Portuguese club. So it was incredible, but we were really small when we applied. And today we are not so small. We're still a small company, but we are on a very different stage.
So Tiago, maybe here, because we are also looking more into early stage startups in these programs on EIT Digital Venture Program, what is the hardest step you had to take in since the moment you actually start having the idea to create the company? Like, what would be the one or two things that made you think, maybe I'm not going ahead with this, that you probably might have some advice to other fellow entrepreneurs?
Yes, I would say that the first time that you start talking with a client or a potential client is a very important point, because you will start listening to them and you will start wondering about what you have done wrong on your product. But that's also an opportunity. So it's difficult because you have a product, you have an idea that has 1 year, 2 years, or something like that, and you start hearing your clients finally, and they tell you, okay, I like it, but that's not what I'm searching for. And that's the opportunity, because you are in the right moment to change and to adapt the product, something that you have been defining for a long time. And you are in the right moment to adapt it to your clients. So it's difficult when you start talking with clients, because you will sometimes listen what you don't want to listen. But it's good because in the beginning, you can build something that it's really impactful for the business that you are working with. So the moment where you start talking with the clients is a very important moment to define what you are going to do.
So Tiago, one of our biggest startups at this moment actually got, let's say, around 92 no's before a yes. So what is for, I believe that you didn't get 92 no's before having one yes, but just to not discourage our entrepreneurs, how many no's do you actually typically get before getting yeses? And this, I ask this because 1 year ago you were not a company, so you are very recent and you already have sales, so you are a very successful case. What was the process like for you?
Yes, you have to receive a lot of no's, of course. I would say that the analysis of receiving one yes per 100 no's, it's good. Fortunately for us, we made to achieve our first client in between of 20 contacts, so it was really good. But for example, in the meantime, I'm trying to pivot my business to different areas, and I'm working on business development on LinkedIn with some other contacts. And that's where I'm having troubles to have a yes, or at least to have a hello, thanks for reaching, let's discuss, let's make a meeting on the future. So I would say that you need to be a guy that don't give up. So you need to start talking with everyone. You need to go to your contacts, you need to go to LinkedIn, you need to create your approach. And every time that you feel that you are not doing well, adapt it, change it, and do it again. And don't give up, because if you talk with 500 people and you have 5 clients, you are on the good way.
So another question. We're actually talking about the fact that there might be a lot of resilience coming into the game, right? Because there's a lot of things somehow that might be difficult. However, you are in the digital area, and digital is always highly scalable, is sexy for investors, but also has a lot of competition because of the reasons I just said. How do you stand out from the crowd? Meaning, how can you be the purple cow, the one that that someone can see in the world of digital area? Like, what have been your strategy, and what would be your advice for people who want to open companies in the digital industry?
Yeah, we are with a disruptive technology. So we are an AI company, and AI is very sexy today. Everyone wants to do something with AI, but it's also difficult to get in because AI is expensive. And I think that was one of the points where we stand out, because we are offering an AI product that it's not expensive, that it's a revenue sharing model offer. So if the client wins, we will win also. So that's where you should focus. So if you have something and everyone is building technology related with AI, augmented reality, IoT, so you need to change something. And in this case, in our case, we thought that, okay, if we create a product that it's not too expensive, too difficult to our clients to have it inside their structure, because this is a product that we will place near your marketing team and you will start selling more. And if you sell more, you will win more, and we will also win a little part of what you win. So look around, see what the others are doing, and try to make a difference, or creating a kind of a product that it's easy for your client to have it, or creating a different value that the other guys don't have. In our case, that point was we are delivering a likelihood per person, a likelihood of purchase per person. We are not delivering trends. We are not looking into groups. We are looking at the person level. So that was the main difference that we deliver also.
So you talk money, right? You talk money. So is there any tips you would give to any, actually to any, and because our 10 minutes are finishing, would be there any tips that you would give for either when approaching your first investor, you had to write applications to actually get your investment? Would be any tip that you have from that side? And also, would you have any tip that people could, and you talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a great tool to find clients. Any tips on that side as well?
Yes, in terms of investors, I would say that you should not give up. You should talk with as many as you could, because every time that you are talking with an investor, the next time that you will talk with another investor, your speech will be different and will be better than it was before. That's one point. Then the investors want to know who you are. They want to feel confidence about you. So your team, the way you present yourself, not only your product, is very important, because it's a confidence relation. If an investor is going to give you money, it's because he trusts in you, not only in your product. Then in terms of the approach to the clients, I would say that you should be quick. You don't should type a lot. You don't should send big messages. So try to make a short sentence that describes what you do. Try to put it in 10, 12 words. Make your requests, join to the network of your clients, send them a little message, and wait for the feedback. If you don't have feedback, continue doing it, because you will have it for sure. You will have it. And in some of the cases, probably you will find at least someone that will introduce you another person. So it's always good to reach people.
Last but not least, if you have to explain what EIT Digital was for you as a startup in 1 minute, like I'm asking you, like, what is EIT Digital Venture Program? What would you tell me?
It was incredible. It was on a virtual way that we have rolled the EIT Digital. It was huge for us because we got, first of all, we got the money that we need to start growing and to start looking into full venue as a full-time job and as a full-time approach. Then you have the network that BGI and the IT gave you. So we have met a lot of people. We have met incredible mentors. We have had incredible sessions. So in my case, I have grew a lot since I entered the EIT Digital Accelerator. I feel that I'm a completely different CEO today. And that's because I have a huge amount of sessions. It was not easy. You have to work a lot, but without work, you won't win anything. So I would say that it was a complete transformation since we entered on the EIT Digital. And in the end, we have two major outputs. We had some money to start, and we have a client because we were introduced by a mentor of the EIT Digital. And that's are the outputs that I would like to share with the audience, because they are really important.
Tiago, thank you so much. We are running out of time. Thank you so much for giving us your testimonial to be here with us. And let's continue working together, right? Because our relationship doesn't end here. Thank you so much, Tiago.
Thank you. Good luck to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will have our last speaker, who is Fadil, who is just joining us. Hi, Fadil.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good, good. So Fadil is a little bit more later stage startup because Fadil has been here for some years now. He was on our program, I guess, 3-4 years ago, Fadil.
2017, I believe, so 4 years.
Oh my God, 4 years. So,
Yeah,
so as raised
I'm surprised too.
Sorry?
I'm surprised too.
Yeah. And well, already raised, let's say, a significant amount of money through Portuguese investors. And when you started with BGI, you were also very early stage, right? You were also starting. So Fadil, who is the CEO and co-founder of Deluxe, Fadil, could you tell us a little bit about the man behind Deluxe and also what Deluxe is?
Okay, so well, hello everyone. So basically what Deluxe is a company that develops biodecontamination devices. So what was Deluxe before BGI? It was a research project that was trying to find a way of entrapping hydrogen peroxide, oxygenated water, into nanocarriers. And so the first idea was basically to develop drugs for wound healing. So as the project evolved, what we started to understand was that that was a very hard project, and we pivoted to biodecontamination. So what we basically do is we developed a device that releases hydrogen peroxide from the formulation that we invented, and that hydrogen peroxide will biodecontaminate everything that we want. So now we're working with the laboratory equipment because it's a smaller market, and so since we're starting, so we're later stage, but not that later stage, and so for our first market application, we are envisioning to start with laboratory equipment. So that's just a short introduction for Deluxe. As for the man, I'm Fadil. I'm a biochemist researcher. I started with Fernando and João, both professors at the University of Lisbon. They were my advisors in my master thesis, and I later evolved to the CEO of the company when we decided to actually incorporate it. And so our participation in BGI was, as I was saying, in 2017, but back then we were not even a company. So really, really early stage.
So I would first ask, so you came from a situation sometimes that could be an advantage because you're young, you don't have to quit your job to go to the startup, and that might be an advantage. But what for you was the riskiest or more difficult thing to actually continue at Deluxe, especially when we're talking about, let's say medical device and service as well in the health area, that might take a lot of time for certification, IP protection, so on and so forth. So what was for you the toughest part so far?
The toughest part, I mean, where to choose, right? So in the early stage, it was really a personal question of should I really do this? Because as you said, the risk was lower, but still before we were invested, we didn't have a lot of funding. And so if it wasn't for a scholarship from the Portuguese government, I would be without a salary for more than a year. But okay, fortunately that situation kind of handled itself. As a company, definitely the problem with medical devices is that it takes a lot of time for certification. We are working with a biodecontamination device, which it's not a medical device, but here in Europe it takes 2 years at least to certify because it's biocide regulation. And so the riskiest, when we find out about this certification, we were already invested. And so our roadmap was to enter the market probably yesterday. And when we started to really dig up the certifications, that's when we find out that it would take us a lot more time and a lot more investment that we were foreseeing. And I think that's a very common mistake in startups to think that the certification and everything, or to reach the market, is easier than what we thought. And so we were in the difficult position that we need and now we need more investment, and we need to convince investors that we can actually put the product in the market with the next round of funding. But we need proof, or basically proof that we can really have a product ready for the next round. And so in between, what we need to do is to show them that we have potential clients, potential partners, potential pilots, potential everything in order to convince investors that they could put money in our company and they won't regret it. And so I think that this was the hardest part from the moment that we started to really define our roadmap and how we were going to reach the market, to understand that it was really harder than we thought, and that it would be really harder to convince investors. We really put a pinpoint on, okay, this is going to be really hard. We really have to put ourselves together and continue this road. So I would say that definitely that was one of the toughest moments.
And well, being one of the toughest moments, Fadil, would you give any advices from any startup that comes from your field, or let's say the medtech area, biomedical area? Would you have any advice for future entrepreneurs while fundraising?
Yeah, of course. So cliches are horrible, but resilience is, your best friend. From the moment that you start, you'll have a lot of difficulties, and in medtech or biotech, basically every tech, and in health tech, worst of them all, you'll have several difficulties, several problems that you're going to run into. And so resilience is your best friend, basically. You have to rely on your team. Your team needs to be united, and you need to have a very good relationship with your investors, because when there is problems, and there will be problems, you need to reach out to them and to really tell them, okay, we screwed up, or this happened, not our fault, we need help. And so I think that what you really need is to trust your team, because great teams can do everything. You can have a good product, you can have a good marketing, you can have a good everything, but if you fail on the team, and if the people are not the right people to lead the project, you'll fail. And I believe, and probably BGI has all of that data, the team is one of the main reasons why startups fail. And so, yeah, my advice would be really rely on your team and be resilient. That would be it.
That's an excellent point, Fadil, because once you receive funding, one of the first things you do is actually you hire new people. And so you had to, as a CEO, do the process and start making sometimes some tough decisions. How do I choose? And so what would be for you some of the main, let's say, red flags for people that you want to avoid working in a startup? Sometimes has to do with profile. And in another side, what would be, let's say, the green flags that you have, that people that would be very useful on the process of being a startup? Because one person has to be like doing a lot of different jobs, right? So what would be your tips, and how was the experience for you as a CEO to do this?
So hiring is a very fun task, to be very honest. I'm very picky, and so I'm not sure if I'm the best example to give you tips, but I will tell you some of the things that I do, and I'm not sure if everyone should do it. For red flags, I avoid people, complicated people. I hate that. I tend to work with people that I like. And I believe this is not very rational, but if you trust yourself that you can make a good decision, as much rational as you can be, there is always a point that you see, okay, I could have this person in my office working day to day, and really see if and really understand if that's a good fit for you. It's a very easy way. If you like it, if you don't feel anything, I don't know how to say it. If you don't feel off about that person, I usually trust my instinct, and then so I go. But of course, that your instinct is not everything. So for red flags,
Steve Jobs said for you to follow your heart and intuition, because they know exactly where you want to go. So maybe it is, Fadil.
Well, maybe. And Steve Jobs built Apple to what it is right now. So yeah, definitely. I usually go with my instinct. And so for red flags, whenever the process starts to be very complicated, I start to shy away from it, and I tend to work with people that are very simple. So I usually do some quick tricks. So for example, I was telling my one of my latest hiring in my latest hiring process. So our project manager was complaining to me that I called her on a Friday evening, asking her, or evening on that week, asking her if she could come to Lisbon on the very few next days, and she was caught by surprise. But I did it on purpose because I just wanted to see if she would be willing to come to Lisbon very quickly and to just, you know, in Portuguese we say desenrascar. Basically, that was I wanted to see if she would say, okay, no worries, I'll get away. Or if she would, oh, okay, you know, I'm in Castelo Branco, this will be very hard, and blah, 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 blah. And so as she came, so my first impression was, okay, she really tried to come here, and it wasn't a very easy situation. We were in the middle of a pandemic, and I was asking her to travel. It was in the summer. It was everything legal.
You're a
But
mean boss, aren't you?
yes, I was. I tend to be a mean boss before I hire, so I can be a better boss afterwards. So it's an evolution. They will get the positive of, okay, actually he's cool. But if people will come to work with your company when they don't think that it's a super big project, a super big everything, it's people that usually will hold up to okay, now this is this project, yeah, tomorrow this will be a different project, a better project, a more evolved project. And so I think that the idea is try to not to oversell too much your project. Try to tell people exactly what you are doing, exactly what you want to achieve. And if people believe your vision, they will tell you, okay, this is not perfect, the salary is not perfect, is not perfect, but I want to help you achieve that vision. And if people can enter that mood, you really have the perfect person. And so the way I hire, it's a bit like that. I see if it's a good fit, and if I feel that it's a good fit, I feel that it's someone that it will really enjoy working with us. That's the person to go.
Fadil, you'll have 1 minute to answer this question from one person from our audience. Fadil, what is your revenue model? You only sell hardware?
Mm-hmm. So basically, we're not selling already. We want to enter the market after the certification. That would be in next year if everything goes accordingly. But our revenue model will be basically to sell the biodecontamination device and the consumable that encloses the solid formulation. So we basically have two products, but it's all in one. We have the device, and then, but the device is very low price, very affordable, and our revenue model is to basically get revenues from the consumable sales. So that's basically it. But that's a conversation for the next year. We still are just doing some pilots in the moment.
And last but not least, you'll have 1 minute to pitch what it is for a startup, just like yourself, your experience of what it is BGI Accelerator. What is it like?
Mm-hmm. Just 1 minute. BGI Accelerator is basically the person that I call when I need something. Okay, I need someone new for my new project manager, Sophia. I'm calling you. I need a new investor. I need pilots. I need everything. So BGI is your go-to person. Basically, BGI is a lot of programs, a lot of things happening. And so some time to time I get an email. Okay, there is this opportunity. Okay, you want to do this. Okay, these students need a project that they want to work on. You want to be their model. So it's a window of opportunities for several things, and I think that for us it was definitely a very good choice. And I must be honest, when we were entering, or we were thinking about joining the program, we asked a lot of people, and we had a couple of negative answers, more positive, but a couple of negative answers. And after we got in the program, we immediately said, what the hell were those people thinking? It was a very, very, very bad advice not to join a BGI. And so I really support you guys, and you really support me. So please do join the program. It will be a very good decision for sure.
So I don't need more marketing. I will just use you as my model. Okay, Fadil, and that will be it for the future.
I'm just doing exactly what you do for me. Sophia is always talking about Deluxe to everyone else. So today I'm the one doing marketing for BGI. Returning
Fadil,
the favor. Quid pro quo.
Yeah, thank you so much. We are over 3 minutes. Thank you so much, Fadil, for being here today. I want to appreciate everyone. So we had coming and going close to 200 people today. So that was good. Hopefully you got the insights you needed. Hopefully we'll be working in the future. I want to thank you all today and wish you a lovely Thursday.
Well, thank you. Bye. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.